Hello.
Nick.
Stephen.
Yes, we should do the introductions properly. As I say, so what we're going to do in the next hour, for the first of today's sessions, we are going to be guiding you through the minefield of the music industry, what to do, what not to do. If you're a band, obviously looking to make it from wherever you are now to possibly, major record deals and the main stage of the Glastonbury Festival, as these lads have done. So Ricky and Nick from the Kaiser Chiefs. And we're going to do this in a way, I thought the most interesting way of doing this would be to just literally talk through the lads' career, where it went right, where it went wrong, the challenges that you face, that any band faces. But obviously from the perspective of someone who's gone on to have a #1 single and sold millions of albums in this country, which is fair, isn't it? Millions of albums you've sold, millions. 2 million of the first album, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In this country alone.
Quite a lot.
That's not bad, is it? Before the Kaiser, let's go right back to the start, because you weren't always the Kaiser Chiefs. You formed under a different name.
Yep.
What was your...
Runston Partha.
And whose idea was Runston Partha?
Mine.
Was it? Did you actually think
No,
at the time that one day...
Yeah, because it sounded a bit like Cooler Shaker in my head, I thought.
And you thought that was a good thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
They were pretty hip at the time.
I was about 17 or 16 or something. And it actually was a little village near two other villages, one called Killam and one called Wetwang.
Right.
And Ruston Partha was in the middle of that.
Right.
So we thought, well, that's a good name. Sounds a little bit sort of weird, psychedelic.
Right.
But maybe it doesn't, I don't know.
I'm just thinking Royston Vasey in my head.
Yeah, well, that was pre that, I think. It shows you how long ago it was. It's like 96.
Right. So how did you meet, and what made you want to be in a band? Had you at school, had you fantasised about being, the rock stars you'd see on the telly? You watch some of the pops and think, I want to do that.
I think we were I was in bands at school I was in bands with Simon and Peanut, who were in the band, but they weren't in the very first formation of the band because they went off to university somewhere else. So, but early on, I was in school and we played like Christmas concerts and stuff. Played covers.
What, in the school hall?
In the school hall.
Got to start somewhere.
Pardon?
You got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere, yeah. And then we did a spring fair, I seem to remember. It was pretty good. Still got the video. And that was like me, Simon and Peanut, still in the same band name. Right. A long time ago.
So Partha becomes more serious when? 90...
I was going to say, because me and Nick met because I went to school with a guy called Dan who lived on the same road as Nick. And I think Nick wanted to start a band.
Yeah.
And so Dan introduced me to Nick at the school gates.
Because Dan said you've got to get Ricky.
School gates?
Yeah.
You've got to get Ricky in the band.
Right.
Because he was in they had bands nights at their school.
Yeah, it's pretty forward thinking.
And so I was like, bands night, that sounds pretty good. And so we found out, I think there was one other guy called Milky, who was a singer in a band. So it was either Milky or Ricky. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, Milky. He was in a rival band of mine.
Yeah.
He was a bit paler than me.
Was he?
And that's doing something.
Hence the name.
Hence the name Milky.
Yeah. I want to do the sort of, you form, in my head, what bands do is they spend hours and hours, days, weeks in rehearsal studios getting together, 6 or 7 songs. And then what do you do next? You go and gig first, or you go and record a demo? Because it's a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Very early doors, because you can't get a gig without a demo.
Support gigs with friends' bands. First gig was at the Duchess of York in Leeds in about 1997, which is now Hugo Boss. May have heard of that.
Right.
And we supported.
Is it fairly easy to get a gig, though?
Yeah.
Like, you just ask?
Well, yeah, I thought it was dead hard at first to get a gig, and everyone was like, you've got to play at the Duchess. And I'm like, how? But you just got to, what we did in the early days, we were very sort of mouthy and getting in everyone's face and making sure we knew everybody who was anyone in Leeds, and we'd just go along and constantly bombarding people, saying how brilliant we were,
right,
and getting gigs. And
so
this
it was a war of attrition, really. You just wore them down until they went, yes, you can play.
Yeah, well, people just thought, oh, they must be good, and we need a support band, so we played. We supported No Oasis once. That was pretty good.
And So from this point, so you play a few gigs. Are you building up any sort of local following? Are you advertising these gigs in any way?
Can I just say, I got a Twitter message yesterday that said, on your new album, is there going to be, and they listed 4 songs that Runston Partha played.
Really?
Elephant Man, Chinatown, Staring at the Moon, and something else, I can't remember.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think he wrote back saying, I said, oh, that's good knowledge, well done. And he goes, I can even remember some of the lyrics. So, in answer to your question, yes.
Yes. There was at least one madman who knows all the songs.
But the thing about the audience then, it would be the same people that you'd see in like the nightclubs and everywhere. It was like a group of people. Within that, there's like superstars of your local scene, and there's guys in bands who you'd see out. And even then, it'd be like, oh, Thingy talked to me from the whatevers.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, all right. And I told him, we're working on a demo and that.
Yeah.
And then you do a gig with them.
The audience numbers decrease as well when you're in an unsigned band, as opposed to the opposite, because everyone comes and sees your first gig and then your second.
I'd imagine people have found this if you're in bands, because you twist your mate's arms, don't you? And particularly if you're going to do a gig. If you go down to London, you have this thing where we'll organise a minibus. Yeah. Of course, everyone wants to go for a big night out the first time. By the third time, you're going down a minibus to play third on at the Bull and Gate or somewhere, or the Dublin Castle.
That's what happens.
Bit busy.
It does sort of inspire you to... We wanted to make the break as well from Leeds. That was like because all the other Leeds bands we thought were just sort of concentrating on Leeds, and this is a bit later when we were actually Kaiser Chiefs at that point. But in between that...
Go back. So Partha you go and record a demo eventually, do you? Do you go into a little studio and... Do you remember much of the first demo? How many songs were on it?
Actually we did... Right. Runston Partha did a couple of demos, because Peanut's uncle happened to be the producer of the Embrace album.
Wow.
The first album. The album. So we got free recording, which is pretty good. Then later on we did it's hard to remember. Yeah, we just did loads of demos. Yeah. We went in local, it was like Yellow Pages time, that, looking at studios in the Yellow Pages, you can't imagine it, but it's true.
And did you know what you were doing when you were recording the demo? And did you know what it was for, or where you were going to send it, or anything?
Well,
or did you just think that's what bands do?
Because you had to go to a studio. Yeah. You couldn't do it in your bedroom. Yeah. Everything was far too expensive. The weird thing is, it's really exciting because it's the first time you do it, but you do realise that you're paying this guy and
500 quid,
and he's saying, oh, you get 7 tapes of it at the end and stuff like that. And he doesn't really care. He's just thinking to himself, here's another band.
Yeah. But that's all changed now, because all bands do it themselves, I think, now. Yeah. The days
it's become a lot easier and a lot cheaper.
And we did it when we went... Yeah. Right, go on, where do you want to go
I was just going to say, well, what did you do with it, though?
Oh, right.
So you've got you've got the demo.
Go driving around, listening to it.
His brother, is a sound sort of...
Did you send it to people, record companies or journalists or anyone like that?
We sent it to Richard Todd.
Who's Richard Todd?
You know Colin Oliver?
For people who don't know, Colin right, okay.
Basically, people in Leeds who owned venues.
Gave it to people you knew.
But
did you find that worked?
No, we gave it to Richard Todd because he ran this. You remember Brighton Beach and like at midnight they'd have a band on. And you never knew it was going to be. And one week it could be the Blue Tones, and the next week it could be a local band. And then he started putting us on there a lot, and then that was kind of things getting going, and you realised that then you were the ones in the bands who, like the guys you used to go, oh, Thingy talked to me and that.
Yeah.
But we didn't get any responses from record companies.
No.
We sent them out. Yeah. Just tapes.
So obviously in the old days, cassettes. So you send them out with. Did you, with a biog, a letter? I mean, what I'm trying to get at is the amount of demos that I get, which they're either over-packaged, they come with glossy photos, and there's just too much stuff, or there's literally just a CD with a couple of scribbled words on it and no contact address or anything.
Well, what's your favourite thing to get then?
I'd like a demo with a sleeve which looked like it had some.
I don't know. I'm asking this. I'm thinking, how do I get my demo to Steve Lamacq?
Did you send demos into to Radio 1? Did you at that point, or was that
probably? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh, okay. Now, by this point, so Partha, obviously, as you're saying, become one of these bands in Leeds that people are sort of talking about, where you've got to a certain level in Leeds.
You can get to being a big fish in a little pond quite quickly.
How then do we get to the stage where you get signed by Mantra? Mantra was part of the Beggars Banquet's set of labels. Beggars is now, well, I imagine since EMI has been sold, Beggars is probably now the biggest British-owned bunch of record labels. It has Excel and Rough Trade and everything. It's very, very credible now, but it had a label called Mantra. Mm-hmm. And Mantra, what happens?
Well, the main guy from Mantra, John, he came and saw us. I think at this point we were trying to do like sort of showcases, because we thought we were there and we were ready to get signed, and a lot of people came and sort of walked away. But then John stayed at the end of this gig at Joseph's Well and just said, I want to sign you. What? You sure? And then he said how brilliant we were. And we were like, honestly, what? Because we'd had a lot, I mean, basically you get used to getting rejected constantly.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had a lot of either rejection letters or people turning up. Because it must really hurt because you have the excitement of so-and-so from X label is coming to the gig, and then when they walk out after 3 songs. I've seen bands actually wilt when they obviously had eye line with the A&R person who's walked out after 3 songs.
It was a bit different as well, because you kind of, I don't want to be negative about it, but you kind of got the feeling that sometimes they were there for the jolly of coming up to Leeds for a night out drinking rather than
they used to
look
drink
at a
with us
band
afterwards a lot and then just never see him again.
You'd buy them a lot of pints,
yeah,
and they'd say how good you were, and then.
That was mainly the what happened with Mantra. That kind of got pulled as a label, which meant that we were off the label, and that was.
Well, just before we get to that, actually sign it. So the guy says to you, "You're brilliant. I want to sign you." Now, at this point, do you have a manager?
Mick.
Yeah.
Mick.
Who's still our manager. We've got 2 managers, and Mick has always been there since '97.
And what's Mick's previous? What's his form? Was he a manager before? Did he know anything?
Road manager of Johnny Thunders.
Right. Okay.
Who is Johnny Thunders from the New York Dolls, and sort of, you know, pretty risky character really.
Yeah.
Who died.
So what did you do all the things properly that we all now know you're supposed to do? Did you look over the contract? Did you have a lawyer look over the contract?
Yeah.
Did Mick get a lawyer or somebody to look over the contract, or did you just go, thank you, where do I sign?
It took a while, didn't it? It was like
It always takes longer than you think it's going to take, and it always becomes a lot more.
It did take a long time. That I remember.
And all of that time, you're just worrying that something's going to happen.
And we just had a lawyer that someone knew and just had him read it a bit.
Right.
It wasn't a music lawyer or anything like that. But the contract was fine. But what happened then was...
But how much money did you get?
For that?
Yeah, just out of interest.
I've got no idea, honestly.
I wouldn't be able to tell.
It wasn't a lot.
No. But the contract...
We couldn't give up our... I think we kind of gave up our jobs for a while.
I remember being a bit annoyed because part of the money was going to be spent on equipment, and I can remember thinking, I don't know, just a microphone? And it was thousands of new amps. What do I get?
Hair products.
Hair products.
And toothpaste. That's all the singer needs.
You have to think of these things, though. I mean, I think, you know, probably, and it's probably happening now, people are so... really just want to sign a deal, but you have to think about sort of budgeting and stuff. But anyway, as you say, so you give up work and then you go back to work.
We got crippled by a tax bill at the end of the whole
Did you?
Mantra thing, because no one kept our money aside. And so that's when we all started going back into jobs halfway through our contract.
So if there's one piece of advice that we can give today is make sure someone's looking after the money.
If we're talking that, this is what you've got to do. If you get paid £100, put £50, let someone take 50 of it away for tax.
Right.
Actually, that wouldn't work. It would be more like 20 if you're only earning £100.
When did we earn £100? That was a good gig.
Yeah.
You sign to Mantra. You go off and make an album for Mantra.
Yeah.
Which never came out. Took us 6 months to sort of record. It was just crazy.
It got manufactured.
There was no structure.
So this is almost how not to do it in a way. we've forgotten where the money's going.
No one put us on tour and no one gave us a deadline for the album. All we were doing was just recording in Leeds in the studio.
Right.
That I used to work at.
Right. So you go in, potter around with this record.
Every day for 6 months.
Every day for 6 months.
It was great, we enjoyed it.
We did the vocals in the last 4 days. I wasn't needed.
It was really mad. But,
So
I'll tell you what we did do, which was quite exciting. When we first got the deal, we went to practice, and it was a summer's day, and none of us could be bothered, so we went and bought BMXs.
yeah.
That was a good day.
So Whitey still says now, he even said it on Tuesday, like we'd just been recorded to it, and he goes, should we go get BMXs? No, we didn't. Got fixies.
So basically, I think what I'm getting at is all the excitement. So all the excitement of the guy turns up. We are going to sign, even if it's a very small record label, which is part of a slightly bigger indie label. We are going to sign, and we're going to make an album.
Yeah.
And this is what we've been aiming at for all these years of playing, dubious gigs around Leeds.
Yeah.
It's finally all here, and then everything starts sort of unravelling in a way. The album takes 6 months, and then.
Well, then nothing happened. We just did gigs to no one in London, and then did a bit of a tour, which didn't really work. And then it was all good fun. We enjoyed it. I think our first ever gig on tour, it was in Lincoln, and there was 2 people, and one of them fell asleep. And that is completely true. But we were thinking, great, it doesn't matter.
The dressing room was like a child's bedroom connected to the pub. He sat in there next to a cot.
There was like cocktail sticks with cheese on it and stuff.
Really?
Weird.
That was the rider.
With a Postman Pat Dado. Dado.
The reason the album doesn't come out is just to compound everything else which is going wrong. Mantra folds. The record label is no more.
We found out we were in a van.
Going to Northampton.
Going to a gig that didn't exist. We found out that we didn't have a record deal, and actually we were pretty pleased. We thought we need to wipe the slate clean here.
But what did you? But straight after the record label going under, and
I got a phone call from someone I knew at the label, and they went. I'm not going to say any names. They said, "I'm really sorry to hear about it." I said, "Hear about what?" And they went, "About the," and I'm like, "What?" And then they went, "Oh, I'm not supposed to say anything."
And so no one told it was. It was just a total mess. It was funny.
Yeah, I found out from someone that worked at Beggars.
Really?
Yeah.
I know straight afterwards. Straight after the record label goes down, and you're still Partha, and obviously at this point it's like, what do we do next? I know what they did next because I went up to the Loft the other day, which is where I keep part of my CD collection.
Kaiser Chiefs collection.
Keeps the picture of you.
And I know that Partha, rather than just giving up, rather defiantly decided to go back into a studio and do some more recording. I know this because I found this. Now,
Got a letter.
No. That's good.
that was a bit of Partha's hassles. This, however, is a Partha. I don't know which camera we're on. There's the Partha demo which they recorded.
What artwork?
With a little bit of headed paper here, and it says
we had the stamp made, and that was things like that in those days were big. Getting a drum skin or a stamp made. I remember once we had a drum skin and we all walked in and stared at it. You'd put it on
and
and
then danced around. Because I'd put it on before. I hadn't told anyone.
And it was on the drums and
everyone danced. Right, go on.
it says, "Dear Steve, this is Nick from the band Partha. You may have heard about our label Mantra going under recently. And this is why I'm sending you this personally. Since we heard about the label, we've been in the studio and recorded 3 songs live, as opposed to the Pro Tools nonsense of our other recordings. So please have a listen and see what you think."
Sounds like me, yeah. That's good.
That's you. And it's quite pretty good, actually. Not bad. Yeah. But you decide, though, having gone back into the studio, still using the name Partha, you then decide to change the name, and what is it? What's the thing?
We were forced into that, really, because, not that there was another band, no.
We'd exhausted every
Exactly. we'd exhausted every chance of getting... We wanted to carry on with what we were doing, which was being in a band, recording, releasing. We released a single, it was brilliant. So, and going on tour, so we needed a record label, so we were desperate to get a new deal. Nobody was signing us. It was 6 months of writing and doing gigs to no one again, and people... What happened then? Yeah, just no one was interested.
We'd met everyone, so much so that I was having my hair cut the other day, and the guy in the chair after me turned us down. So they were everywhere. And
yeah. So then we just...
but you didn't give up,
we scrapped
though.
it. No, we just went, right, we're not called Power, but none of those songs will ever play again, ever. And...
We did a last gig, and we planned it as the last gig and said it was our last gig.
We played Eye of the Tiger as the last song.
Yeah. It was
Survivor.
And it was brilliant. But the thing is, there's our friend Tim videos a lot of it, and he's got footage of us afterwards. And we were really positive about it, having a last gig. And
so you could have a first gig afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Best thing we did. Yeah. And we scrapped everything. That was very important.
So
I remember you bringing up the fact we should, and I was like, well, even like something I liked. Yeah, even that. What about this? That's really good, people. Now everything's got to go. Yeah. I was a bit dubious at first.
So what happens next then? So you change the name to Kaiser Chiefs. You write a whole new set of songs, which must have taken a while. Did it?
It came very quickly. It's funny, writing songs for a band that you don't know anything about is actually easier because you don't have any thought about who it is.
There's no expectation, there's no demand on you because no one knows who you are or what you are.
Yeah, and we didn't know. It was weird. It was like writing songs for a band that was not us. So it came really easily.
So we start again. Do you think this time we're going to do things differently, or did you just bumble on thinking...
We thought that the main ethos we had, is that the right word? Was that we were going to do everything the opposite of what was trendy. Which was, when was it, 2003? So we still, it's like tail end of the Strokes, Hives, White Stripes, Datsuns, D4, the Vines. Everybody was like trashy.
Dressed in black.
Yeah. And so we thought, well, that's done. We're not interested. We want to be British because everyone else was American or Australian or Swedish. There wasn't a single band from Britain in the NME, and we were like, right, there's our place. Just get back to our complete essence, our roots, and what we listen to, what we really, really like.
So in this case, in a way, I mean, strangely, that's very reminiscent almost of, I suppose, what Blur did when Modern Life is Rubbish, isn't it? When during the grunge wave, they were essentially, and I suppose the roots of Britpop came out of a similar thinking that we don't want to be this. We want to be essentially very who we are.
Yeah.
But I think that the point here is don't be scared to be different, isn't it? In
Well,
fact,
that's the only way
being
you'll
different
get
might
spotted.
be the thing that...
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you used to say a lot, if you can see the bandwagon, you've already missed it, and and I quite like that. And then
I didn't make it up. I heard someone on the radio say that once.
Probably you.
Maybe, yeah.
So it's
too
kind
smart
of,
for me.
It's, that getting into stuff that's really popular just because it's popular isn't a good way to do it. You've got to come at it from the side.
And this time around as well, because I'm sure most people here are aware that a lot of bands now, they build a team around them, don't they? So did you have any of this support team?
Well, we were really terribly defiant about anyone else. We wouldn't let anyone in. We would just let... In fact, I remember thinking at one point, we're not even interested in record labels. We're only interested in playing the songs, playing gigs to people. And that's how we were going to do it. And we were not going to target labels, press, any of it. We were just going to do that. And even now, we're still mistrusting of anybody and anything, which is good.
So, more demos. You do end up doing a single, though, but not with a big label this time. You did a single with Drowned in Sound, the website which had a record label.
Well, that's because someone else just finally, the last person to turn us down. Oh, no, it wasn't actually, no. There are quite a lot of people continued to turn us down, even after the Drowned in Sound single. So
Drowned in-
that's because we were, at that point, damaged goods,
Yeah.
which people didn't like.
I've got
But
a good story about a guy, I won't say any names, but we went for a meeting with him and he said he put a record out. And he said, so how are we going to live? Because we can't keep our jobs, we've got to, we have to do the band. He goes, oh, you'll make your money by selling T-shirts at the gigs. And we said, but you're not going to give us any money to release the record? No, you'll make your money from merch. We walked away from that one.
Right.
But
Good advice.
we had another guy who was going to put out Drowned in Sound, and then, sorry, not Drowned in Sound. There's another guy who was going to put out Oh My God, the demo, which we mastered here. It's the only other time we've been here.
Really? Right.
And he just went cold on us, and then I emailed Drowned in Sound, Gareth Dobson, in fact. And it was him and Sean who helped us put that out.
If you've not heard it, this was the original version, mastered here. It's the Kaiser Chiefs by this point, and this is Oh My God. Peanuts keyboards are really high in that mix, aren't they?
Well, we mixed it. Right. Me and Peanut, so you'll notice the drums, my backing
Your
vocals.
drums.
And the tambourine.
So we move on. So anyway, after that, you do get a proper record deal. Do you still have the same management at this point? Have you...
James, who's there at the back.
James from Supervision, James Sandy.
So if you've got any demos, just give it to that guy.
Yeah, do. Or links. Anyway.
Dongles.
So we thought at this point we definitely need management.
Right.
We had Mick,
yeah,
but we needed some, London management. And it's hard to remember exactly. I remember James came to a gig in Oxford and liked us. Basically, the damaged goods, was still haunting us really badly because we'd been signed, and that's apparently a bad thing, but it's not. And so James was like one of the only people in the business who was actually, saw us and didn't care about Didn't walk out and didn't care about the baggage. In fact, someone had said to him, they said to James, "Oh, you're not interested in them? They're too old and they used to be Partha." We were only 25.
Oh, bless. But it's perception, though, isn't it? I think that's the point here, isn't it? That, and I think journalists are very much like this, and certainly, I think radio people all over the media, actually, myself included, have that thing where, well, they did do this, but it didn't work. And I think there were one or two bands actually who, just by persevering, did manage to get through that. I mean, I remember Snow Patrol at one point.
Right.
Yeah.
They were too old, and they used to be Snow Patrol, Mark 1. But so James takes over, and I suppose that's a weight off your mind, really, because he's the one who can then go off and bully people on the phone, and you can get on with writing songs.
Yeah, it still wasn't easy. Getting a deal was still hard, but we got one. I mean, I think basically everyone else turned us down. Be Unique didn't turn us down.
Right.
That's how it worked.
Right. So it's literally the only person who hasn't turned you down is the one who gets to sign you.
Yeah.
Right.
We went to Russia. That was pretty good.
Last one out of the building is it, right? When you sign, now you get to make an album which is going to come out.
Yeah.
What did you do differently?
Well, one thing...
Not fanning around for 6 months, obviously. What did you do differently?
The really important factor as well was the NME, because I think because we were new and different, and I think there's also a few other bands, friends were coming out, who were a little bit similar, sort of, as in, didn't sound like the White Stripes. And then, so the NME were really, really interested. A guy from Tim Johns from the NME, now of Guardian, rang me up once, and he just goes, I can remember answering the phone and shaking, thinking, he's going, hello, it's Tim Johns from the NME, walking down the street in Leeds. Yeah, I heard you did a gig last night with Franz Ferdinand. I just want to write about it. What was it like? That's how much they were that's how much they wanted to push us at that time. Yeah. It's like, oh, it was really good. I think everyone really liked it.
People were fainting at the front.
Yeah, and then he wrote it, and then they just kept writing little tiny choice bits from about, it was like spring 2004, we got single of the week, we drowned, Oh My God. And then we started recording the album in...
A long time ago.
November 2004.
We also had that club as well, which he was interested in.
That's it, yeah.
Because the enemy started writing about this club that we had in Leeds.
Right.
And a dance club. And then and because of that, we kind of like had a foot in the door and we said when they were a bit more open to hearing about us, which was good.
So, there's 2 points here. One is, fortuitously, having not been in the right place at the right time, maybe with Partha, now suddenly you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. I think we steered it that way. That's what I like to think, anyway. We invented our sort of corner of the room, and everyone had to come along because it was so brilliant.
But do you think, it's very hard, I mean, when we're trying to sort of explain to how to how to bend the rules of pop music a bit to, in your own favour. It's very hard to sort of define this, but it's sort of building a CV. Having the club is a really interesting thing. I always tell people to go away and just start doing stuff which makes you more interesting than the band next door.
Well, if you haven't got a scene, you've got to set your own scene.
Create one.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we did that club, because there was nowhere good to go anymore in Leeds. It's called Pigs. I think...
Pigs?
Pigs.
Right. Okay.
And it's pretty good.
So you make the album, Employment, with Stephen Street. Having a proper producer on board helped?
Yeah. Well, that was part of the deal, really. We said we wanted him to make the record, and he couldn't make all of it, so we did half of it with Stephen Harris, who was a fun guy to be around. Right. We went to a place in, where was that?
Lincoln, in the middle of nowhere in Lincolnshire for like half the album, and then half the album in London. And at the same time, we were touring as well, because it really, really started to lift off at that point.
And what are the other key moments then? Because I think we're probably now trying to work out how you get from band who've just signed, single out, make the album. How do we get from there to albums? The album just started selling, by the bucket load, by the shed load, didn't it, when it came out? What were the key moments that helped in that process?
It's a really difficult one, because also at that point, it was like nothing we'd ever experienced, because it was...
We were so busy as well. You don't really know what's going on because you're flying everywhere, you're travelling all over the place. And
I can remember everything up to that point.
Yeah.
And then after sort of end of 2004, it's just a haze of memory. I can't remember periods of time.
Really?
I can't, no, I don't mean... Like, I used to be able to go, we recorded that demo in April 2002, and then obviously... Because that was the only thing he ever did in April 2002.
So you were aware, though, that it was beginning to take off and the press was good, but it was too busy to sort of reflect on why it was all happening?
Yeah, if we'd have been sat at home and on the internet all day, it would have been, quite exciting to watch it, but, I don't know, you'd be in Brussels, where you're not big at all, you're playing in front of 50 people. Yeah. And then you go to another country where you're playing in front of 200, and then back to another, 1,000. Yeah,
when our album first came out, we were in America, and someone texted me when I got back from, on the way from Heathrow Airport, I got a text, and it was like, "You massive?" I was like, really? That's pretty good.
So you go away for a couple of weeks, you come back, and it's all happened?
Yeah, I don't know, it was weird. It was just the stars aligning, I think.
To keep this machine working, by this point, I'd just like to go through...
the NME tour, that was important.
Oh.
Of course.
How could we forget?
We got the first on of the, what's it called now? Has it got different... The NME tour, the one this time of year.
Yeah, it's an NME...
The big NME
New Musical
tour,
Express does a package tour, doesn't
and
it?
And it was the vintage year of the Killers, Future Heads, Block Party, Kaiser Chiefs. And it really was a sort of... I think everybody went, everybody was interested, it was just exciting, really good.
You were first
lineup.
on that tour?
Yeah. And then I think that helped enormously.
Because then you go, after you've done that tour first on, then you go around the country again, and everyone that went to that comes and sees you headlining somewhere, and that was a good big.
I remember because we went to the Birmingham leg of this NME tour, and it was, as you say, I mean, the Killers had just taken off. Block Party were beginning to happen. The Future Heads probably had was the Sounds of Love out at that point. It certainly was. Yeah. It was a must see. It was a must see tour. But I do remember going to Birmingham. And you went on about 5 minutes after the doors opened, didn't you? Yeah. People were still running in.
Yeah.
So even so, I mean, it must have been hard work because you're starting with.
I can remember the first gig was in Newcastle, and we were just setting I was putting my drums on stage. The doors were open, people were coming in, and we were like, "This isn't it." Wait, we're going off, and then we're coming back on.
Can I very quick?
That's another top tip, by the way.
What?
For bands, you've got to try and lift your sort of, what am I thinking of? In any way you can, try and make yourself look bigger. So if you're setting up your gear, before you go on, and there's like 10 seconds, always go off, disappear, then come back on.
Right.
With we always came on to entrance music. Then at the end, when you finish, you stand up, don't start taking your cymbals off. You stand up, you go off, and then you come back 1 second later and start taking your cymbals off. It just makes people think they're better than they are.
Always say your name twice. Always tell people who you are.
Like when we did I Predict a Riot, even on the NME tour, people would say to us, "Oh, what's that song? Whatever." And then Ricky started going halfway through the tour. This song is called I Predict a Riot. Just so that...
Well, that was another thing when we first came with Kaiser Chiefs, because a bit dubious about the name, and he said, whatever happens in a club, if someone says, "What's your name?" say it with so much confidence that it's the best name. Kaiser Chiefs. Like that. Not, because with, like, the old Partha, you go with Partha.
You know, most people say their band name and they go, and they have to repeat it, and you'd go, "So what's your name?" "Oh, Kaiser Chiefs." "What?"
You heard.
"Kaiser Chiefs, it's a South African..." And they're like, "Okay." We're like, "Kaiser Chiefs?" And then we used to say to it before we went on, we go, "Right, this is when we first started Kaiser Chiefs with these 6 songs, whatever. We went, right, we've got to go out there and play them as though they are the best songs in the world." And then we just played them better. We're just like, we are the best.
So it's a mentality thing, really. If you think yourself bigger than you are, it's a confidence thing.
Like, I'd be like trying to get people to sing along, and they'd never heard it before. Like, I don't know it. But I didn't realise they didn't know it. Well, if I know it.
We only got to that stage from having all the mantra stuff before us and the power of it and doing it all wrong.
Yeah. And
just remembering what we did wrong and how we can make it better.
Well, I think this is the point. This is why it's it's an interesting tale, I think, is because it went so badly wrong. You just couldn't, you would learn, obviously, from all this. And I just on another practical note, going back to building the team around you, to make sure that while you're going around on tour and everything's happening, you have a manager, obviously, overseeing things. Mm-hmm. But there's a big old team, isn't there? You would have a press officer.
We had all independent people as well because we didn't have a deal.
It all came together in the Archway Tavern.
Yeah. Because Rob, who's over there, radio plugger to the stars and us. And you're on screen, Rob.
There he is.
On telly.
It was the tavern. Was it Archway Tavern? Yeah.
So him and Paddy, independent people, because we could, and they all did it for free at first because they recognised that we were, going places, but we didn't have a label, and so a lot of people in the industry who like music, you've got to find those people, will do things for free if they see that you're a good band with no money and you go in places. Our agent as well did the same thing. So we had booking agent, press and radio, all free, all basically with the proviso that when we're big, you'll get some money.
Right. How strange is it trying to deal with a certain amount of success, just keeping keeping everything. I mean, I suppose you have to after the first album, which does incredibly well, doesn't it? I mean, you're headlining the old Astoria after one album, which a decade earlier no bands managed to do that. Yeah. So this all goes on. Does that increase the pressure then, and how do you deal with it when you're thinking we've got to go and make another record?
Oh yeah, the next record. I don't know. We were just
so busy. Just so busy, you don't even stop.
You look worn out now.
Our year started. Our 2005 started in Joseph's Well and ended in the NIA. Wow. Which is
National Indoor
you can't even work out how that's happened, and you don't even try, and you're just there, right in the middle of it, just going, oh, what are we doing tomorrow? What? Can't believe it. Got to get up at 6, 5, fly in here. One time we did something like 10 flights in 11 days. It was just, you never sit at home having a cup of tea thinking, we're pretty good. Just can't do it.
Just before we get actually to the second album, as you can probably tell, of the Kaisers, I think, out of all the bands, I mean, Franz are very good, I think, but it makes a difference that it's easy to talk to bands, and bands have got something to say, whether it's, in some cases, I suppose when the Mannix arrived, it was a manifesto of sorts. But if you talk to someone and they're actually really easy to just engage with, I mean, looking back, that really proved, the fact that you were very approachable as people, I think, helped you. Do you think?
I think so. I think we kind of took it, we took it more lightheartedly than a lot of people, and didn't go on about songs and say why this is the most important song in the world or whatever. We were just like, we'd see an interview as just a chance to sort of try and be hilarious.
Working on your double act?
Yeah.
I haven't said a lot today, have I?
No, sorry about that. I get very, I'm dead keen on this sort of thing.
But I remember the first...
I like the kind of interviews where it's favourite colour.
Right.
If you were an animal, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, the first time...
Yellow and giraffe.
It's rather spoiled it now. The first time we did an interview, which was for Six Music, I think the show was still at the weekends at the time, and they came in and rather than talking about the record, which is obviously what they were supposed to talk about, came in and talked about their favourite Radio 4 programmes for about 15 minutes and then buggered off home.
Yeah.
That's about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were giddy about meeting you. We get giddy about meeting everyone. And I remember we were so giddy about meeting Simon Mayo. He asked us if we were on drugs. And we said, no, we're just excited to meet you.
He could not believe it. What was it? What?
Are you on drugs?
It was so weird.
Obviously, it's all going quite well. Second album, you make the second album. When you're making an album, do you sit there and think about things like what's going to be the single? Is it there in the making of the record when you're writing it? Do you think it must have 3 of these? It must have 3, what Mike Skinner would call bangers, I suppose. 3 big hits on this record.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've got to, because it keeps you in the lifestyle you're accustomed to. I mean, new shoes, World Traveller Plus, stuff like that. Having hit singles. Anyway.
Plus, the thing is, with us, it's the kind of stuff we like as well. So we like going to see bands. We always have liked going to see bands that play singles. Yeah. You know what I mean? Songs you can sing along to and songs you can dance to.
Yeah.
We wrote them thinking, no, I don't know. We wrote the 6 songs or 7 songs for live, and we thought, well, people want these kind of songs. We want to play these kind of songs. I Predict a Riot and Every Day I Love You Less and Less. And then it was the label, actually, who started calling singles. We knew, we did Oh My God, and we knew I Predict a Riot was going to be a single. But then they put out Every Day I Love You Less and Less, and we were like, really? Okay. And then Modern Wave, really? Right. They all did well.
But you have a say over this, I suppose. They don't just put it out behind your back.
No. Well, I mean, what happened then? They were just picking us in. We thought, well, our songs were great, so...
When did Ruby come along? I'm just interested because that's being a #1 record. Where it came from, and do you remember being the first time you rehearse it?
Yeah, definitely.
Vividly, I remember Nick saying it might be too catchy.
It might be too catchy.
Too catchy, and I was like, there's no such thing, and yeah, it was too catchy. But
I was saying, can we really sing Ruby 4 times in this chorus?
Yeah.
So even at that point,
but I think you were a little bit like Ruby, that'll change. Yeah.
It won't be like that when it's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're questioning the whole song, even right up to that point.
Well,
it's amazing.
I can't remember what
But
I
even like that, I kind of want to go back and like enjoy it, because even when we got to number one, I remember sticking my head out of the bunk and going,
Oh, I cried. We cried when we went to number 22 with our first sing. Was it 22? Yeah.
You don't have to tell them we
Happens
cried.
to be my lucky number. Has for a long time and remains 22. So when the first single came
Yellow
out,
Giraffe 22. I'm storing it.
went to 22.
That was actually good.
And we all started beefing.
We were
Was it?
we were recording in Lincolnshire, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, I cried when we went to number one as well.
Right.
Because I rang my mum, saying.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like when you hurt yourself at school. It's all right, you're fine until you see your mum come to collect you.
Yeah.
And then you go. But
No, because everything was cool and we were like dead cool like that. But then number one, brilliant, fantastic, that's really good. And then I was on the bus, rang my mum. Single's gone at number one. And as soon as you say it to your mum, you remember all that time when your mum and dad are like, oh, go on, what are you going to do? You're at number one. And it's just like, good.
Excellent. That's album of the George Tree Angry Mob. I remember actually it's Rob is at the back, who's the radio promotions for the Kaisers, and see, it's very precious when the album's made, and you don't want to let people have copies. So anyway, Rob comes round. He says, look, I can't give you the CD, but I can play you the CD. So Rob comes round. We get a takeaway curry in, stick the CD on, and we're listening through to the album. Goes straight past Ruby, I think, and I stop at. Everything's Average Nowadays.
Yeah.
I go, that's the single. It sounds like this, by the way. This particular track, Everything's Average Nowadays. Play.
Oh. Well, that's right up your street, really, isn't it?
It's right. It's right up my street. But I said, right, that's listening to it. I go, that's a single. Play it again. We must have played it 4 or 5 times. Got to number 67 in Belgium. That record. That's why I'm not an A&R person. But you can spot. But obviously, in your head, you can hear a single when it's a single.
The thing is, we did talk about that as a single for a long time, and then Ruby came along.
Right.
I think that was going to be. It was a contender. But
it was Rob who, was the one who said Ruby first single, because we had a few alternatives, and we were like, you just can't see the wood for the trees.
Again, this is one of the problems, particularly when everything gets very busy. You have to make decisions quite rapidly, don't you? I think there is a demand on bands now. You've got to do something and move on, do something and move on. There is a pressure to always be doing something and releasing something. I mean, the challenge is, if we're just going to wrap up very quickly, the challenges are changing now, aren't they, for bands, I think, and the demands on bands.
But ultimately, it's the same thing. You've got to have some people in a band, 4 or 5, maybe 3. You've got to have, ultimately, really good songs. Then you've got to look pretty good. And then you've got to...
It all falls apart.
And then you've got to sort of, I don't know, just mean it and enjoy it. Find something you really like. Don't copy anyone. Well, you've got to copy someone. I mean, the difference between Partha and Kaiser Chiefs was that we copied 15 bands in Kaiser Chiefs and stuck it all together. And in other bands we've been in, it was like, just target one and copy them, and it didn't work.
We do have 10 minutes left, which we can use to just natter on and tell more anecdotes, but we can take some questions if anyone has any questions, anything which you'd like to know about the Kaiser Chiefs or their past, or any bits of advice that you would like specifically about anything. You can bung your hand up, or we'll just carry on like old men in a pub. Yeah. There you go. Some questions. Do we have a man with a microphone, or we're just going to shout this out? Hey,
yeah, there we go.
We'll take one down here then, please.
Let's do them all, there's only 3.
How do you deal with writer's block? Do you get it?
Well, it's weird because Nick writes, he comes along with the music and an idea about what the song's about, and I just have to finish it. So I just kind of finish it. So no, not my problem. So Nick, how do you deal with writer's block?
I don't know, just do something else. Just like, don't torture yourself. If you spend a day trying to write a song and it doesn't come, just go somewhere else, do something else, forget about it, maybe come back 2 days later. And then, I don't know, listen to some...
I find that if I'm writing, the good stuff will come just as you're walking down the street or whatever, but I don't think you can that doesn't happen unless you're constantly trying to do something, I find.
I often go to gigs and I see a band playing and you sort of mishear the words, and the next time that chorus or whatever comes around, you check, and if it's not if you've got something different, you're like, that's good. Stealing things, if all else fails, yeah, right, but just steal stuff. Go on the train or the bus or whatever and listen, and there's always going to be somebody saying something that's quite good.
Sometimes words come from, like we'll be in rehearsal singing, but it's just singing nonsense. Me and him both have a mind, we're just singing nonsense, and then afterwards we finish, and Nick will go, did you sing blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, but yeah, I did, yeah. And he goes, that's good.
Genius.
Yeah. So
You're
it's just...
genius.
Keep your ears peeled.
Yeah. Any more? There was some. Where are we going to go? Someone's pointing. Let's take you, sir. Yes, no. You with the hand up. Yeah. There's a microphone coming. It's
you with the hand up.
You with the hand up. You boy with the hand up.
Are you really, really bored of playing like older songs, but because they're singles, you feel?
In rehearsal, always we cannot get through an old song without changing it into a reggae version. But when we play live, it's good because there's people there, and every night it's a different audience. So you've got.
You've got to remember that that's their favourite bit when they hear it.
So you get off on that. That's really good when you see a load of people loving it. It makes it a lot better to play. But if it's just 5 of us in the rehearsal room, we won't play it. Okay. Can I pick someone? Because there was an original 3 people. This guy here and this guy over. So
yeah. Where do you want to go? Down here somewhere.
Guy with his hand up.
Go on.
Have a 5-star moment in a
How do you get the inspiration for your songs? Because I know like some people pick up things when they go on walks, some people listen to things, and just wondering how you get yours.
Well, I don't know. I think you just got to walk around with an open mind, really, and sort of think. I don't know. It just keeps coming, which is good. So you just walk about. Like I said, listening to people. I do take the dog for a walk, and I come up with quite a lot of good lyrics on a dog walk. So, I don't know. And then also just keep listening to loads of music as well. I can listen to a record or something and then just go and write a song.
It's very similar.
It'll sound just like it. Like every day, everything is average nowadays. Just watching this Ramones documentary.
Right.
And also, it was, everything is average. Simon says everything's average. He used to say it all the time. And so just by putting nowadays, then you've got a song.
You've got
it's
a new one now.
Written. As soon as you got that line, that's a song.
You noticed he started saying "not ideal" a lot.
Not ideal.
Is that Simon in your band?
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Yeah. Not ideal.
There's a new
and
song.
Then nowadays, and then you've got a song. Obviously, we're being streamed live this session, and there's various people getting in touch through the miracles of the internet. How important is image in becoming successful? Did you guys have to change yours at any point?
Image about like what you're wearing and your haircut and stuff like that.
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's really important, but I think when you're in a band and there's 5 of you and you're hanging around and you're writing music, you're rehearsing all the time, you're going out together. You kind of gravitate towards a look. There's not a rail of clothes there, and you go.
You can always spot that.
Yeah.
You can always spot where there's a band having a photograph, and then just on the left-hand side, just cut off, you can imagine a rail of clothes that they've just chosen.
So at the beginning, it was all like,
we just wore Fred Perry, and we'd go around all the places we were touring, and you see anything made by Farrah or Fred Perry. Oh, we can't even name these names. Barry's a tennis player, though, isn't he? So.
Yeah, you can say name him. Steffi
Yeah.
Graf, there's another one. The thing is, we have been guilty in the past of, because, you know, people at clothing manufacturers cotton on to the fact if you give you free stuff, you wear it. And I'd say don't wear free stuff because you end up looking like Tosspot.
Right. Can't say that. Tosspot or Steffi Graf.
I think you can. It's all right. We're nearly at the end.
Nearly
We've done
there.
quite well, I think.
4 minutes to
I
go.
was going to say one more thing.
Yeah, go on.
Imagine going to see a band, say, in Leeds. Imagine the cockpit. Anyone from Leeds here? So you're in the cockpit and you look at a band. You want them to look, you know, you want them to sound good and feel good and be loud and great and everything. But if they look good as well, then that's even better. Look at the Charlatans.
Look at the Charlatans.
Well, he looks brilliant, doesn't he, Tim Burgess, all the time?
Yeah.
And you just, like, look and go, cool, I'm going to look like him.
It's funny, actually, there's also this, I think some bands develop a walk as well. Have you noticed how some
From Manchester,
people in bands have a walk?
Yeah.
Well, even there was a band called the Warm Jets who never commercially made it, but you could tell they were in a band just because A, the way they dressed, but also as they walked past. I was sitting in a pub in Camden, they just walked past and you just went, I bet that's a band. And of course, it turns out to be a band just because of the way they walk. I think...
I got told off the other night. We were going somewhere, me and my girlfriend, and as we started arriving, she said I was walking differently because I was putting on a show.
Putting on your
And I was like, I don't know what I'm
walk.
doing. She goes, you're walking, you're swaggering. I'm like, I'm not. It's how I walk.
I think
When
Ian
you're
Brown
in
started it all.
character. Yeah. I think probably, I mean, just to wrap up, because we have 2 minutes and 46 seconds, we could sit here all day and come up with various ideas, but there is, and I always stress this when we're doing something like this, there is no blueprint. Every band who's ever been successful has done it in a slightly different way. There's certain things that you should do. Look after your money, make sure you remember tax and all these sort of things that you've heard in the last hour. But there's no, even if you've got the right team together, even if you had the same team of agent and radio plugger and manager that these boys have had, wouldn't necessarily mean you would achieve that success. But when you come up against any sort of problem, as we've seen in the last hour, if any brick wall you hit, there is always a way around it, whether you have to tunnel under it or climb over it or go around it. There are alternative ways as long as you persevere, and I think that's really the point. Any last pieces of information that you'd like to impart?
When I look back at what we did, I'm quite impressed by how stoically we just kept going. And I keep thinking, would I do it again? I probably wouldn't, because it was...
Oh, I couldn't be bothered. It's too much effort. It's not effort when you're doing it, but if someone went, if it was Groundhog 10 years, and they went, oh, you've got to do that again, I'd just go, forget it.
I'll stick to my DJing.
Yeah.
If you knew the outcome...
If I knew the outcome, yeah, it'd be hard remembering everything you did, like where you went and what you bought.
But I'd know where all the
the
good cafes were in European cities.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So it'd be a lot easier in that respect.
We thought a photo was important at the time, so we chose a choice cafe in Leeds, a greasy spoon for our first ever Kaiser Chiefs picture. I think that actually made quite a difference. Because, anyway, we've got a minute left, let's wrap up and stop talking about cafes.
That's all part of the sort of image thing, though, isn't it? Get a good photo. Decide what you are. I think this is the thing, particularly if you're a band. I always recommend bands should just sit down and talk about their band for a while. Don't just turn up at rehearsal and plug in.
There's loads of notebooks that you have to kind of sit in pubs and write down stuff and talk about it and plan.
Yeah, we did that for 2 years.
The pub bit was handy.
I guess the final word is then you should probably be prepared to have a certain amount of patience before your success arrives. I hope you've enjoyed this first session. We are out of time, but an impromptu explosion of applause, please, for our guests.